There comes a time in every soul's journey when you begin to question yourself. Not because you are weak, but because someone has made you believe your clarity is confusion. You've been told that you just don't understand them, that your heart can't grasp the depth of their pain or the reasons for their cruelty. But deep within, you already know the truth. You've seen the patterns, felt the manipulation, and recognized the emptiness behind their charm. It's not that you don't understand the narcissist. It's that you understand them too well. You see the darkness they hide behind their words, the pride that masks their insecurity, and the control disguised as love. Yet, the greatest danger lies not in their deception, but in your doubt. When you start believing their lies about who you are, you begin to lose sight of your own light. But today, it's time to rise again. To stand firm in truth, to remember your worth, and to reclaim the peace that was never theirs to take. You ever notice how people wear masks every single day? They smile, they charm, they act like they've got it all figured out. But behind that smile, behind that confidence, there's a whole different story. When you deal with a narcissist, that mask is polished, perfected, and presented to the world like a masterpiece. They want you to see the version of themselves that looks powerful, admired, untouchable. But the truth is, you already see through it. You've seen the cracks in the mask. Those tiny moments where their insecurity slips out, where the anger breaks through the charm, where the words don't match the actions. And deep down, you've always known something was off. That sense you get, that quiet voice that says, "This isn't right." That's not confusion. That's understanding, see. The narcissist's greatest trick isn't their manipulation. It's making you believe you're the one who doesn't see clearly. They twist your perception. They project their chaos onto you. They call you too emotional, too sensitive, too demanding. But all the while, they're terrified that you'll see them for who they truly are. Because when you see through the mask, their power starts to crumble. You stop reacting to the performance, and you start recognizing the pattern. You begin to realize that all their control, their superiority, their drama, it's not strength, it's fear. It's emptiness wrapped in ego. It's insecurity dressed up as dominance. And when you see that clearly, you no longer need to question your sanity or your worth. You start to understand that your empathy, your kindness, your desire to make things right, those were never weaknesses. Those were the very qualities they targeted, because deep down, they wish they had them too in life. People will tell you that understanding someone means excusing their behavior. But that's not true. You can understand someone and still walk away. You can see the wound and still protect your peace. Understanding doesn't mean staying in pain. It means recognizing truth. And the truth is, you were never blind. You were compassionate. You gave chances because your heart wanted to believe in the good. But the day you start seeing through the mask, the day you finally understand that you're not crazy, you're not broken, you're not too much, that's the day you reclaim your power. Because you stop trying to fix what was never yours to fix. Now let's talk about that moment of realization. the awakening that changes everything. You're sitting there one day, maybe after the argument, maybe after the silent treatment, maybe after another one of their guilt trips, and suddenly it hits you. The mask doesn't fool you anymore. You see the pattern play out like a movie you've watched too many times. The love bombing, the devaluing, the discard, the apology, the repeat. You start to see that the cycle wasn't love, it was control. And for the first time, you stop reacting and start observing. That's growth. That's awareness. That's power. Because now you can predict their moves, not because you're cynical, but because you finally understand how the mask works. And once you see the truth, you start living differently. You no longer chase validation from people who can't even validate themselves. You no longer beg for empathy from hearts that refuse to feel. You stop explaining your worth to those committed to misunderstanding you. That's freedom. That's the beauty of awareness. It changes how you show up in every area of life. You become quieter, stronger, more discerning. You listen more to your intuition. You pay attention to actions, not just words. You start realizing that peace isn't something someone else gives you. It's something you protect. The world is full of masks. At work, in relationships, even in families. But once you've seen behind one, you can never unsee it. You start noticing how many people pretend just to be accepted, how many hide their pain behind success, how many hide their insecurity behind arrogance. And instead of judging them, you understand. Because you've been there. You know what it's like to play small, to please others, to hide your truth, just to avoid conflict. But you also know that the cost of pretending is too high. It drains your energy, your peace, your sense of self. So you stop playing that game. You stop living behind a mask. You choose authenticity over approval, peace over performance, truth over illusion. Seeing through the mask doesn't make you cold. It makes you wise. It teaches you discernment. It helps you set boundaries without guilt. It reminds you that love isn't about saving someone from themselves. It's about sharing light with someone who can also see you clearly. The narcissist wanted you to believe that your understanding was weakness. But the truth is, your understanding is power. Because while they manipulate out of fear, you see through love. And love that's rooted in truth can't be fooled. It doesn't get lost in the performance. It recognizes the script and decides not to play the part anymore. You already understand more than you think. You understand how to survive storms, how to rebuild after betrayal, how to walk away from what doesn't honor you. You understand that peace is more valuable than attention, that clarity is stronger than confusion, that healing is louder than revenge. And most of all, you understand that seeing through the mask is not about them. It's about you. It's about reclaiming your vision, trusting your discernment, and standing firm in your truth. Because once you've seen clearly, you can't be blinded again. You've grown, you've learned, and you've risen. And that, right there, is your victory. There's a moment when you start to question everything you thought you knew about yourself. You wonder if you're too emotional, too reactive, too sensitive. You replay conversations in your head, trying to figure out where you went wrong. But that's the trap. That's the illusion of confusion a narcissist builds around you. They twist your reality until you start doubting your own reflection. They say one thing and do another, and when you call it out, they act like you imagined it. They shift the blame, rewrite the story, and suddenly, you're the problem. That's how they win. Not by being smarter, but by making you believe you can't trust yourself. They create chaos on purpose because confusion gives them control. The more you question your memory, your emotions, your truth, the easier it is for them to define it for you. They gaslight you until your confidence cracks, and in that space of self-doubt, they take over. But deep down, that little voice inside you, the one they keep trying to silence, it still knows the truth. It still whispers, "This isn't right." And that voice is your way out. Because the moment you stop fighting to understand their lies and start believing your truth again, the fog begins to lift. You start to see how they use words like weapons, how they play the victim to avoid accountability, how they project their flaws onto you, so you'll carry their guilt. You start realizing that the confusion was never real. It was designed. You were never lost, only led away from your own clarity. And once you reclaim that clarity, everything changes. You stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You stop accepting chaos as normal. You stop apologizing for simply wanting peace. That's when you break free from their illusion. The truth is, they never had power over you, only over your perception. And once your eyes open, once your heart remembers who you are, their tricks lose their magic. You start to move with certainty again, with purpose, with strength. You no longer need them to see your worth, because you see it for yourself. That's the beauty of awakening from confusion. You realize that the truth was never lost. It was just waiting for you to believe it again. There's a power inside you that doesn't shout, doesn't argue, doesn't demand to be proven. It whispers. It's that quiet voice that says, something isn't right when everything on the surface looks perfect. That's your intuition. And when you've been around manipulation long enough, when you've been told your feelings are wrong, or your memories are off, that voice becomes your anchor. It's the one thing they can't touch. You don't need to explain it. You just need to trust it. Your intuition doesn't come from fear. It comes from experience. It's the part of you that's been through storms and learned how to read the wind. You've seen patterns. You've felt energies. You've watched actions that never matched the words. That's not paranoia, that's wisdom. It's your spirit recognizing truth before your mind can put it into words. And when you learn to listen to that, you stop walking into the same traps. You stop giving endless chances. You stop letting people convince you that your truth needs their approval. You don't owe anyone an explanation for what your heart already knows. Trusting your intuition is trusting yourself. It's knowing that peace isn't found in justifying your boundaries. It's found in standing by them. It's the courage to walk away, even when you don't have all the evidence, because your spirit already feels what your eyes haven't seen yet. That's power. That's clarity. That's freedom. The world may call it guessing, but you know it's guidance. And when you move from that place of knowing, you stop chasing explanations and start walking in strength. You keep waiting for that moment when they'll finally sit down, look you in the eye, and tell you why they did what they did. You want answers, you want clarity, you want closure. But here's the truth. Their behavior has already told you everything you need to know. Every lie, every silent treatment, every manipulation, that was the explanation. You don't need a speech from them to understand who they are. You've seen it. You've felt it. You've lived it. Closure doesn't come from chaos. It comes from acceptance. The narcissist isn't going to give you peace, because peace requires accountability, and accountability requires honesty. They can't give what they don't have. So stop waiting for them to validate your pain. You validate it yourself by acknowledging that what happened was real and it was wrong. That's where your healing begins, not in their apology, but in your decision to stop chasing what was never meant to heal you. When you stop seeking closure from the person who caused the wound, you begin to reclaim your power. You start realizing that understanding their motives doesn't change the outcome. It only delays your freedom. Their behavior was the message. It told you what they value, what they fear, and how little they were willing to give. And that's enough. So instead of replaying the story, you rewrite it. You take the lesson, not the pain. Because real closure isn't found in their explanation. It's found in your choice to move forward, stronger, wiser, and finally at peace. There comes a moment when you've understood everything, the lies, the manipulation, the games, the patterns. You've studied it, analyzed it, replayed it in your mind 1,000 times. But then you realize understanding alone doesn't bring peace. It's what you do with that understanding that transforms you. That's when you rise above it. You stop letting their actions define your emotions, and you start letting your awareness define your strength. You stop asking why they did it, and start asking what you're going to do with what you've learned. Rising above understanding means turning pain into power. It means you take every tear, every lesson, every sleepless night, and you use it to build a stronger version of yourself. You don't seek revenge, you seek growth. You don't fight to prove your worth, you walk in it. Because once you see how darkness operates, you learn how to protect your light. You become wiser, calmer, more intentional with your energy. You learn that healing isn't about erasing the past. It's about outgrowing it. Awareness is the foundation, but empowerment is the elevation. It's the moment you stop surviving and start living again. It's when you realize the experience didn't break you. It built you. You walk taller, speak clearer, love deeper, and forgive yourself for the time you spent in confusion. That's not weakness, that's victory. Because now, you don't just understand what happened. You understand who you've become because of it. And that understanding is the beginning of your freedom. At the end of it all, remember this: you were never powerless. Every moment of confusion, every wound, every unanswered question was shaping a stronger, wiser version of you. You don't need their apology, their validation, or their understanding to move forward. You've seen the truth, and that truth has set you free. Now it's your time to rise, to rebuild, to reclaim your peace. Walk with your head high, knowing that what tried to break you only revealed your strength. Because healing isn't about looking back. It's about stepping boldly into the life you were always meant to live.